What is good, internet? You're listening to the only podcast to have unfortunately lived all the way up to season 3. That's right, you're listening to FGC Cast. I am one of your two incredibly decrepit, refusing to be retired hosts, the Purple Sharpie, and I am joined by...
Saki, Sakura, always pressing buttons even on plus frames.
Girl, they couldn't cancel us if they tried. Ain't that crazy? Nope. Welcome, everyone, to Season 3. Great to have y'all here. Saki, you know, we have finally entered the 3rd season of this podcast, and I just want to congratulate you on living this far into the future of the podcast. Do you have any words of wisdom for people that are also trying to get to season 3 of a podcast, perchance?
So, you know, bringing that up, I feel like kind of going a little serious for just a quick second.
Of course.
I love podcasts, but whenever I've gotten like offers to do podcasts, it doesn't go past a season 1. And, you know, being able to collab with you was first one of my goals this year. It was like my New Year's resolution goal for 2024. But more than anything, I'm so proud that we've got to season 3. We did a whole season and we're still cruising on into season 3.
Well, you know, don't jinx it. We do unfortunately have an entire episode to get through today before we can officially say that we've started a season 3. So let's knock on Potemkin here and hope that we get through this season. You know, knock on a big metal object that in no way, shape, or form can break. Right?
You're already jinxing this, Sharpie. On to the next segment.
On to the next segment. So, Saki, last episode, we ended by giving a really cool, nice little Road to Evo example. I believe this episode, we actually have something new, something brand spanking new, as a matter of fact. You want to go ahead and bring in the Evo 2024 recap and what these viewers may have possibly missed if they didn't have a chance to see Evo 2024.
Absolutely. So we talked about it in the last show and we got to see it in this show. NA domination, including Punk legendary run, been able to finally achieve the Evo win for Street Fighter 6. This was such an incredible match, especially for grand finals. Both a heartbreaking match, you know, the one that you're watching right now on screen was against Tokido, but it was against Big Bird, who, you know, both of them were really trying to get that last win for Evo 6, or first Street Fighter 6, better said, and qualify into the Esports World Cup. But more than anything, this is a journey for Punk that was taken quite a while, all the way from Street Fighter 4 days. And then in addition to that, we go into, of course, the Street Fighter Third Strike. That was one of the actual games that was highlighted. Evo does these nostalgia games.
Yeah.
I love this, by the way.
Yeah.
This Hugo player here, Hayo,
that was
fantastic.
Hype.
They was so hype. Just because grappler mains, y'all can't say anything now. Y'all have your hero right here.
I'm actually gonna rewind it again just because that very first clip that they play here is literally so freaking hype. I'm just gonna play it back one more time because it's like when he gets he opens up, I believe, just by he really utilizes this parry properly. He does it 3 times in a row, and it actually cuts later because he's just over there dancing. He's like, oh, I know that killed. I know that killed. And I think the moment that was the hypest goes on later inside of this clip. I actually got a chance to like see it live at Evo. He's just death dropping. This is a death drop. That is a move that drag queens do called a dip, where you put one leg up in the air and you just drop to the ground. And he's doing all this while that super is going off. Like, he's still in the game. He still has to play. I found this dude randomly when I was watching, I think it was the Jazzy circuit. He was duck walking. He was doing the duck walk into the tournament.
Yeah. Hayayo has been, from what I understand, a legendary Street Fighter Third Strike player. Yeah. And known for those like antics, right? Towards the end, like just the flamboyant movement, being able to like just have fun with the game. I feel like also Hayao was also I was able to make another Evo moment. Like the later
right
in that
here,
clip,
we're gonna go ahead and unpause it. Y'all are about to see Evo moment, as I like to call it, 75.
Oof. This is so good.
Yeah, literally so good. Watch this.
Ooh, 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 ooh. The one button.
Look at him jumping. Did you see him just over there dancing, bro? Just literally dabbing on him. This man is crazy. Look at him. Look at him. Watch this next thing. The commentators literally go, how is he doing that? Is he doing that?
I felt the flexibility.
No, it was hype. It was hype. But, you know, Saki, I think Evo really gets, like you said before, they do legacy games, right? And I think this is a really good showing of just how important legacy is in the fighting game community, because legacy isn't just about old games. Sometimes legacy is also about new people coming in and defeating the old guard. LilyPichu ended up playing a 1-2 against Harada. The first match, the very first set, actually went over to Harada, and you can see Lily's frustration here. You know, she's being a really good sport about all of this. I don't think anyone expected her to do what happened next inside of this set. So the second set, she actually comes back, turns it around. Watch this here. Look at her. Look at her. Oh, it's not over. She's on the board. She's on the board. She's on the board. Look at Harada there. Look at the pain in his face. Now, if that was not bad enough, as if that was not bad enough, watch this third set, because this third set can only be shown as a true Evo moment 96. All right? Look at Lily. She's so cute, dude. She's so cute. Now, this moment right here. First to two, remember, this very next round wins.
Oh my gosh, and that interactable was crazy, but here we go. Just able to get the rage art and the landing on it.
Yep.
You know what I love about this part? Harada goes ahead and takes the mic and is like, I'm not playing this game anymore.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he
that
does.
is the mood of every single player that has fought against a Lily.
Yep.
And it felt the exact same thing. Listen, if Lily gets nerfed, you know that LilyPichu's the reason why.
They actually, it's really funny that you say that too, because right before all of this started, literally the thing that the developer said was, hey, you know, if you win, we're nerfing Lily, right? You are going to be the direct reason that Lily gets to be nerfed or buffed. And she was like, okay, I'm here for it. Let's do it. And I was like, that's some toxic behavior, girly.
Oh, man.
That's some toxic behavior. But you know, overall, obviously we had actual tournaments going on as well, such as Guilty Gear and the like. Do you want to go ahead and take us through the quick recap of some main game tournaments? Saki at all would greatly appreciate it.
Real quick, I just want to add about the LilyPichu. I think it's so cool that we have like really big, mind you, LilyPichu is a voice actor as well as also just a content creator too.
Well, before anything, I just want to add, for those of you who don't know who LilyPichu is, I have long time followed the League of Legends community. LilyPichu is a streamer who originally started off by streaming League of Legends, got very well known inside the League of Legends sphere, started making content around that game, got asked to be a part of music created by artists like Falcon Shield, and actually started voicing work off of that. She's now a part of, I believe, what team is that? Is that Off-Brand Games? It's not Off-Brand Games, is it? It's another game. It's another team that I'm thinking of. This guy's...
I do know she's in Genshin.
She also does a character inside of Genshin. Before she did Genshin, she voiced characters as a parody for League of Legends inside of songs, like Teemo and stuff. So that's where she's from. She's originally from the League of Legends community. So I think it's really great that now she's like a big personality and stuff, but she originally started in League of Legends. So the fact that she's now doing stuff inside of like Tekken and fighting games and stuff, it feels full circle because now she's back inside of competitive gaming officially again. I'm forgetting what the name of their org is that they do all this under. What is the name of it again? Do you remember?
Oh, I think it slipped my tongue too, actually.
Yeah. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry to them, honestly, because they've worked very, very hard on their little clan and stuff. But she's an instrumental part of all of that. So like you said, she is a voice actor. She's a content creator. She's a streamer. But I did just want to give that history because I lived through that.
It's crazy, right? Like you lived through that for the start.
I'm listening to you describe her. You're describing her as a voice actor. I was like, she was a streamer before. She was just someone who played League. It's crazy that now people are like, yeah, she's a voice actor. I was like, I remember when she just streamed.
It's just really cool that, you know, you get an opportunity to play with the dev of one of the biggest fighting games that is mainstream, and you have such an amazing time. That win alone was, I feel like, that must have been like the highlight. Like anybody she talks to, nobody can tell her that she's bad at the game because she beat Harada.
Yep.
You know,
what are you gonna call Harada bad? Is that what you're gonna do? You're just gonna say, by the way, the creator of this game sucks?
Oh my goodness. But like you were handing it off to me, we still got some tournament recaps happening, and this one includes Nitro taking Guilty Gear Strive with Jacko. Now I want to make it very clear here. Nitro was using Giovanna throughout the entire tournament and also had Jacko as well. This was a pure lore match because it was Soul versus Jacko in this finals. And honestly, I just want to say to all the Jacko mains, you were broken before, you are currently broken now. Now you can't complain. Now you can't say that you're not broken anymore. And the other thing too that I'm just like so proud of seeing here from Nitro is one, repping the FlyQuest. They've been a really big org that's been in the FGC for about like a year and a half now, and they've been really confident in like their players.
Yeah, they've been here for a while.
And super supportive, mind you, as well, especially in the Guilty Gear side of things. And just to be able to see Nitro take the win, this was probably one of the coolest things, right? Like popping off on the stage. That win is so good. Jacko, again, like I need to really stress
that pop off.
I need to stress that Jacko is a character that has constantly been I wouldn't say a problem, has always been like, she's not as strong as she was in Exert, right? She doesn't have the minions that kind of like basically play League of Legends. She has to summon the minions. She has to actually set them up. She is like strike throw mix, but you can literally like have to have those frame tight combo block strings, right? You gotta do all of that. And just to see Nitro take that win is like so satisfying. But you all Jacko players, you are now considered top 5. I don't want to hear anything else.
That's great. Not you using this platform to push forward your Jacko hate when you literally play some of the scummiest characters I've ever met in Slate of 2SKO. That's why you run Ari Yasuo. You are a disgusting, glue sniffing, huffing, paint slurping, nasty, unfair comboer.
It has been about, I want to say, actually 8 days since the Alpha Lab has started, and Sharpie is still ducking me. Sharpie is still ducking me. Okay. You know what? But what was the very next game to highlight here, Saki? Go ahead and let us know. You got it. So the next one is just to cover, once again, Arslan Ash also taking the win at EVO for Tekken 8. Now, I really want to stress here, and Sharpie, I would love to discuss this with you because you are someone that has talked to many players, right? And from different games, from different communities. You know, one of the things Arslan Ash was worried about after the end of Tekken 7 is, okay, I know I'm this like really good player, but here's this new game, you know, I kind of have to work for all of that again. I can't just say that I'm the best at Tekken when Tekken 8 just came out, and there's gonna be quite a bit of people who are also going to be just as good, if not better, right, when going into this new game. So what I love about this for Arslan Ash is he takes the win for EVO in Tekken 8, which is almost kind of like a throwback to, I feel, one of the times that he actually was known to me before I got into the FGC when he took EVO back in Tekken 7. But I would love to hear your thoughts on like, okay, he's now that winner of Tekken 8. I think he can still safely say he's probably one of the best at Tekken.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's one of those things where with every brand new game that you take on, and I actually was listening during the Esports World Cup to Justin Wong's commentary and analysis during like some of the gameplay that was going on there, specifically when it came over to who am I thinking of? The Capcom World Cup champion. Who is that? That's Mena? Yeah, Mena. Yeah, so Mena, just as a spoiler, didn't do super well at the Esports World Cup, a lot worse than other people were expecting him to do. And they asked Justin, hey, Justin, why is it happening? And Justin said something that I feel like not too many people focus on, but like that I've always seen, especially as someone who's not super great at the game, people, especially at a very high level, can only have one or two characters that they play at that very high level. You can't spread yourself too thin, right? You've seen some people do it. People like Justin Wong in their prime, Sonic Fox in their prime, even people like Perfect Legend and Ryan Hart at their prime, and even Alex Valle at their prime. Like I'm talking in their mid-20s, early 20s even. They all played like 6 or 7 characters really, really high level, but they always had like 1 or 2 characters that they went back to consistently, right? Mena has been spreading himself incredibly thin across the roster in Street Fighter 6 with several different characters. And there's always a concern when a new game comes out that your new character is not going to be as strong. And even if you pick up a bunch of new characters, it's going to be really hard for you. To take this back over to Tekken 8 and Arslan's Ash's comment of being worried that he's not the best Tekken player in the world anymore. Tekken's even more competitive in an international level than Street Fighter is right now, you know? And you have this guy who's coming from this country that's not typically given shine, and he is directly responsible for his entire country being put on internationally inside of the conversation now. Like not like ignoring Daigo, ignoring Big Bird, it completely and totally ignoring like Punk and Bonchan and all these other people that are being focused on. Arslan is the reason why we're even talking about Pakistan right now when we talk about Tekken. It's just him. There are other very talented players from his region, but the reason why we're talking about that country is directly because of him, you know? And so the concern becomes, even though I've only been spending this time with this one character, is that going to be enough at a high level to still beat other people who are younger than me, who may have had more practice and have only been playing Tekken 8, have not been playing since Tekken 5, like Arslan has, or even longer? Because every single game that you pick up, you grab and you keep knowledge, and that's not always a help. Sometimes that's a hindrance. Sometimes you're misremembering a combo. Sometimes you're misremembering an interaction. At a certain point, having infinite knowledge starts to hurt you because now you're overthinking situations, you know? So I completely and totally understand why he's worried, especially about falling out of the spotlight. And I think it's a very relatable human experience because I think everyone knows, like even think about people like Sonic Fox, you know, you're from the Mortal Kombat scene, I'm from the Skullgirls scene. Sonic Fox dominates the conversation inside of both of our games. And it's become a conversation of, well, who's gonna beat Sonic Fox now? It's not even like people are excited about Sonic Fox winning anymore. It's like, well, who comes next now? And I think Arslan is concerned because now that there's a brand new game, that conversation is going to start happening around Arslan. You're already seeing it, you know? You're already seeing people be like, well, who's the next Kettlecore? Who's the next Arslan? Who's the next Sonic Fox? Is Big Bird the next Justin Wong? You know, like everyone's starting to figure out who the next kids are because they want to get ahead of the narrative. Do you understand what I'm saying, Saki? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I see it all the time when we talk about the Chilean twins in Mortal Kombat. We talk about it all the time when we think about Ninja Killer, for example. And even though, you know, they are in their own rights really good at the game and probably the best in their league, the real question always comes down to in these tournaments, hey, Sonic Fox is one of your opponents. Can you beat them?
Yeah.
And we saw that at the start of the Chilean twins, especially with Nicolas, actually doing that, right? In the earlier side of MK11. We haven't really seen that too much yet, except that we see them in grand finals and they just don't finish the food for it. So 100% agree with you, and I'm so glad that you put it and really broke it down, because I feel like a lot of people, they forget that these are players.
Yep.
These players are humans, better said. And you brought it out in a great comparison. When you're stretching yourself thin and you're not able to balance out, the decisions, the training and everything, you start having these like, oh wait, I'm not making it. Also, someone's always going to be better than you, right? And they're always trying to prove it. Maybe not now, right? Maybe you can't beat Sonic Fox now, but a couple of days later or a couple of years later, when you're in that tournament and you play out of your mind, you just became better than them.
Yep. So yeah, Saki, that's why I kind of feel like player mentality is so incredibly important. And I'm glad that you kind of picked up, the importance of like recognizing how these people are human, how they matter, and ultimately that players in and of themselves have the same type of issues that we all do, as players in general.
Absolutely. And Sharpie, there's still a lot left that we have to cover for EVO.
Yep.
I would love to see if you're aware. Did you know that EVO's expanding?
Yeah, isn't that crazy? EVO is no longer going to be in one solitary position anymore. A lot of people are very familiar with the fact that EVO Japan is also a location that still happens. EVO's actually expanding to even more locations. EVO is now going to be inside of Los Angeles, Tokyo, Las Vegas, and now for the very first time inside of the UK as well. France, specifically Nice, France, there is going to be a brand new EVO opening up there as well. And this news actually brings kind of a brand new, I want to say, vibe to the entire tournament series. Los Angeles is actually going to be an award ceremony event happening in the early parts of the year in February. Tokyo is still going to be, specifically EVO Japan is still going to be inside of Tokyo from May in general. You have Las Vegas, which is like EVO in August, and then Nice is actually going to be in October of the year. So Saki, I know you already kind of hinted towards it, but do you have any input on what you think that these brand new quote unquote stages and different locations for EVO are going to basically bring to the franchise itself?
Well, first and foremost, I am so happy to hear that we're going to get an award ceremony. I don't think anybody understands how important having our own award ceremony is.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Because we have the Esports Award, but the Esports Awards, they don't really cover and highlight the FGC as they highlight and cover other parts of esports.
Yeah, respectfully, right? I just want to say, I don't think that there has really been any type of award show that has the word esports inside of it that could properly encapsulate what the fighting game community does. And I think that's one of the reasons why we see an award show now popping up at EVO. I was at Super Smash Con the last weekend. Super Smash Con has their own award show. They have their own award show. Super Smash Con just rebranded as Supernova. Now they had Rivals of Aether there. They had, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Super Smash Bros. Melee, and Super Smash Bros. Brawl all there. Several members of the community, not exclusively players, but also organizers inside the community, won awards for being the best and representative of something inside of the scene. You're never going to get that at the Esports Awards for platform fighters or for traditional fighters. So good on EVO for finally utilizing their platform, especially inside the traditional fighting game scene, to showcase who matters inside of this community and to properly award people that are putting work inside of this community.
1000%. And again, I really, really want to just highlight that, having this opportunity is going to give I want to say that next level feel for fighting games, right? Now we have a place to actually honor all of the work that gets put into this entire community, right? So I'm extremely excited and extremely happy that this is happening. Obviously Tokyo, we all knew, right? EVO Japan, that's a staple.
Pretty standard, yeah.
I will say that this past year was the first time that the Evo brand really took the reins on Evo Japan. You know, in the previous years before, Roto was basically just hosting the tournament, and due to like the Japanese laws as well, you weren't really able to like actually charge for venue or for tickets or even to compete. This year, Evo went ahead and was like, you know what? We know that you guys like Evo Japan. However, we see that you guys didn't have a good experience that previous year. We're going to go ahead and be more proactive about it. And I feel like that's kind of where that idea of like, wait a minute, if we're doing this in Evo Japan, why not start going global? Right? And I think that that's such a good initiative to start with in Japan. And then, you know, obviously we have Las Vegas. That's our staple. That's our home. Right? And we have now Nice in France, which gives an opportunity for the international players to actually kind of have like their own home turf, or own Evo, basically, in their own turf. Now, I would love to actually bring this into discussion here, Sharpie.
Yeah, of course.
We talk about how with Evo, it's that prestige, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people kind of get that FOMO feeling.
Yeah.
They're like, you gotta go to Evo. You gotta go, you gotta compete, because that's where everybody's watching, right? And most of the announcements are also happening too at Evo, plus competitions.
Or they're happening on the official Evo rebroadcast podcast.
Exactly. So my thing about it, right, is when we look at how these expansions are happening, does it take away that prestige?
Great question. You know, I saw this conversation coming up organically quite a bit of times throughout the, I want to say the dumpster fire that is social media, you know, and I'm sure you saw this question as well popping up quite a few times, right, Saki?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. Me personally, my thought process on this is Evo is a name. There's a certain amount of prestige that comes from Evo exclusively because of the people that you are fighting, not because of the event itself, right? There are other events that I would say, for the record, have more importance and more prestige to me as a fighting game player, specifically as a Skullgirls player, than Evo does. And I feel as though I've been very vocal about this, as have you, Saki, about like Combo Breaker as being the tournament that you absolutely cannot miss if you love fighting games. Because it is that. Combo Breaker is a love letter to fighting games as a whole, whereas Evo still feels like more of like, if Evo is if Evo is WWE, then Combo Breaker is AWS or AEW, I think, right? AEW, I don't even watch wrestling. I don't even know why I made that reference. AEW is more of like what wrestling fans actually want and what people who like wrestling actually enjoy. And the WWE is what everybody knows when it comes to wrestling, you know, because it's been around for so long. Because when you were a kid, you heard about The Rock on WWE, or you heard about Hulk Hogan, or you heard about Stone Cold Steve Austin. Well, now AEW has all of these new kids, all of these popular brand new fighters that are now becoming mainstream and more popular, you know. But I feel like the same level of opportunity that's been given exclusively to United States and to Japan by merit of Evo, especially since it has been acquired by RTS and PlayStation, will now be given to places outside of the UK, especially around Nice, France, which is an amazing opportunity, I feel. And something that I didn't unfortunately cover, but I did want to also add, is that Evo is also going to add Singapore inside of 2026. So not in 2025 next year, which, you know, that new lineup takes place immediately in 2025. But in 2026, there are going to be parts inside of Asia outside of Japan that are also going to have their own event series as well. And that's an awesome opportunity for real international presence in the fighting game community to start popping up. You know, maybe instead of games like Third Strike being featured as a legacy game at EVO Singapore, maybe we have fighting games that are very, very well known inside of Singapore that I may not necessarily have been exposed to as someone who lives on the East Coast of the United States of America. I don't think prestige is a thing that we should be asking ourselves here. I think we should be asking ourselves is this the international experience that the fighting game community as a whole has been wanting? I think that's a more important question than the idea of prestige and legacy, right? We should be asking the question of, are we getting the representation that we deserve at an international level thanks to EVO now, you know?
I couldn't agree more with you. And I think that's actually that's a perfect example of why, like, one, Twitter's not a real place. And two, this is a conversation that isn't just, no, I think that EVO's still that prestige, or no, I don't think it is. No, there's a lot to think about in these types of things. And truthfully, when we look back into that transition of EVO before the pandemic and EVO after the pandemic, we don't want to stay in the same place
exactly
for all these years. We want to
1000%.
grow.
Yep.
You know, and I feel like right now it's in the good hands enough that it can grow and do what it needs to do in helping us be on the point, right? Yep. And I couldn't agree more with you.
So thankful. I'm so thankful that you couldn't agree more with me, even though you unfortunately play one of the worst characters inside of 2XKO. But before we get back into 2XKO, we also had an opportunity to showcase some brand new features inside of Guilty Gear Strive. Saki, take it away.
Yes, so with Guilty Gear Strive, it was announced that Season 4 is actually going to be coming. And what we also got to see was the Team 3v3 as well, which we were all talking about how that was working out. The network test came out, and it's actually really fun. It's not like your duos in 2XKO, but it's definitely up there with how fun and a new, fresh taste of, like, hey, this is Guilty Gear. I also want to highlight, we got our characters, Sharpie.
Yeah.
So first and foremost, as I kind of predicted in one of the episodes back when we were covering the Guilty Gear Strive,
you definitely called these. You definitely did.
Listen, it's the anime weeb in me, all right? I just have that sixth sense, okay? Unica is considered one of the characters for Season 4. Dizzy and Venom make their return. And Sharpie, hold on to your hat for this one. Are you ready?
This one's big. This one's big for sure.
This one is super big. This next character is Lucy from Cyberpunk Edgerunners.
Yep.
Guilty Gear's first ever guest character.
Yep. No, the fact that they have her is just so crazy to me, mostly because I watched Cyberpunk Edgerunners, and I just want to say, why do they have Rayman in there, first of all? Like, that was weird, right? Did you watch that show?
So I've seen like a lot of clips on TikTok. I'm actually scared to watch that show simply because
spooky.
I'm scared because I don't want to cry.
Aw, you're gonna cry.
I don't want to cry.
No, you're definitely going to cry, girl. There's no way around it. But I will say, for the record, they have, for some reason, I don't know, I think maybe it's because Ubisoft animated it, is what it is. But they have like Rayman in there. They have a couple of other references to other characters. But Lucy from Cyberpunk is an OC character inside of that universe, and I'm really happy that they brought her back. But they even have like an assassin from Assassin's Creed inside of there as well, which was just, it's a weird show, girly pop. I'm not even gonna lie, but
the game's kind of weird too. I'm also not gonna hold you. I tried to get into it and I couldn't get into it personally.
So let me ask really quickly here. You know, since you're the resident Guilty Gear player, and I know you spent a long time with not only Strive, but like some other iterations of Guilty Gear and examining a lot of like the culture and community behind it, how do you feel about Guilty Gear adding a guest character? Because I believe this is not only the first guest character aside of Guilty Gear Strive, it's the first time Guilty Gear, the franchise, has ever had a guest character inside of there, to my knowledge.
So I'm so glad you asked that, because you know, there's been a lot of, just outside of Guilty Gear, there's been a lot of debate about guest characters and how they can be really good, obviously, to attract players that are not your normal fighting game players. And then there's been arguments of like, well, there's just too many guest characters. Especially for me, for example, that I come from a game that has quite a bit of guest characters in MK. So for me, when I look at Guilty Gear, I actually think it's a positive, and it's going along the lines of what I have been saying about Guilty Gear Strive specifically for the longest time. It is a community, yes, that's very niche, but the game itself is starting to transcend bigger into the market of gaming than, quite honestly, ever since, these other games like Street Fighter 6, Mortal Kombat, and Tekken. When I look at Guilty Gear, I honestly will tell you, I think of the big three more starting to include Guilty Gear.
Wow.
And mind you, I think they just recently passed like 1.8 million copies sold for Guilty Gear.
Yeah, it's
so
been growing.
It's a very low number, like compared to obviously again the MKs and the Tekkens and Street Fighter.
Bigger than indie games like Skullgirls though, and like Melty Blood or Under Night and stuff.
And mind you, this is a Japanese game that comes from Japan, from a Japanese developer who, truthfully, the last time that Guilty Gear was trending was when Biden was showing why kids should not be playing Guilty Gear. He literally was like, this is bad. This is not good for your kids. Like, that's the last time Guilty Gear trended. But now we're starting to see more people involved. We are getting the anime, which is already a really good sign. If you think about it, Tekken, Street Fighter, and MK have their own animation studios, yes, but they're still animated. They've had their own different form of media content. They have their guest characters, right? And mind you, for Street Fighter 6, they have, Terry and Mai, but it's still guest characters.
Yeah.
And Tekken as well, with like, for example, Noctis in Tekken 7 and Negan from The Walking Dead. Like, it's about time that we got to see a new game get a guest character. And even if it may not fit for the world, because again, Cyberpunk's all based in technology compared to Guilty Gear where technology is banned, it's still really
Is that
cool
the story of... I'm going to be so serious with you.
Yeah.
I have been inside of this community now for over 12, 13 years, and I still don't know the storyline of Guilty Gear. I'm not expecting you to explain it during the course of this podcast, because I think even with 3 seasons of this podcast, we still don't have enough time to dissect the story inside of Guilty Gear. But that's what the story is, that technology is banned?
Yeah.
What the hell?
Yeah. So, and because the gears, right, they were created from technology. And so because they were, anyways, like I said, really big, like a lot of story. But again, it's the fact that like we have this character, I think probably a very popular character, because a lot of people are still talking about Cyberpunk Edge Runners. They're still talking about Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk itself has been going through DLC, and even though it was like a crazy launch that wasn't really very positive, they managed to make a comeback to be one of the best RPG games that a lot of people go back to. I have other women who love Cyberpunk, and they're like, I'm gonna learn Guilty Gear now. I'm like, hit me up. Call me, and I will teach you Guilty Gear. I will teach you the ways. So regardless of what your opinion is, it's still a very good sign, because when you look at everything, it means that people are going to get to play more Guilty Gear. And speaking of Evo, just real quick again, it has been 4 years now that this game has come out, and we're still in the 2,000 registrants.
Yep.
That's huge.
It's a good sign whenever the health of the game exists this long, and to kind of final thoughts on this Guilty Gear segment, because I know we got a little bit far away from the point. I think we can sum it up really, really simple. Technology is banned, DLC has been added, a new guest character is added, and Saki will pretend to teach you Guilty Gear and then grab you at the end of the segment.
That's
correct?
Crazy, yes.
You did it to me in front of Azim, though. You did it. Do I have to pull up the clip right now on the podcast? Because I will. I have it ready.
In my defense.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
I was playing my secondary. It's playing my secondary. At least it wasn't Anji that grabbed you.
You were going to pick Anji against me though. You were hovering. I begged you to play Testament. That's the only reason you didn't hop off her.
You were gonna play Ram though.
I don't play that game. You gotta take over that game.
That doesn't matter. She's a brain dead character.
Okay.
With her disjointed hitboxes and swords that explode for auto
we gonna have to agree to disagree because you also play a sword character side this very next game that we're here to talk about, which is 2x KO. I am so incredibly excited to talk about this with you, actually, Saki, because here's the thing, right? For the longest time, Saki, I have been giving you hot mess, as a matter of fact, regarding this right here. You inside of 2x KO. Now, you came out with a video because the Alpha Lab started last week, all right? And we're gonna kind of gloss over the fact that the Alpha Lab started last week, and we're actually gonna get into the grime and the dirt and the nastiness of all of this. It has now officially been, what has it been, 8 days? Since Alpha Lab has been out, and I just want to say our impressions, that's what we're going to mostly talk about inside of this next segment here. Our impressions of 2x KO have been very positive. As a matter of fact, I actually have a talk show that I personally host 2 hours every Monday through Friday on radio.fgcast.com, otherwise known as FGC Radio, where I have been taking an opportunity to go ahead and give my thoughts every single day of this Alpha Lab, and I highly recommend you, listener, tune in any point in time, 9 a.m. Eastern, that's 6 a.m. Pacific, exclusively on radio.fgcast.com, all right? Any internet browser whatsoever, from your phone, wherever. But Saki, I actually understand that you went ahead and you also made a video regarding your experience in 2x KO. You want to talk about that very briefly for the class?
Yes. So one of the things that I've been noticing, especially on Twitter and socials, is a lot of people are a little bit overwhelmed with kind of how 2x KO works. Even players that are let's just say that they're like definitely new to tag fighters, right? Or even veteran tag fighters. So one of the things that I really wanted to cover in this video is how to basically defend in 2x KO. And I ranked all the defensive mechanics in a way where it's how you should focus on what is stronger, what is weaker, and then what is stronger. So I covered, how quick rise works. I covered even, the basic air recovery and why it's important in this game. And I even covered how push block and parry work, as well as retreating guard. And I feel like a lot of people really were well receptive to it. And I hope that if you're getting a chance at the Alpha Lab, or you had a chance at the Alpha Lab and you weren't sure how things were working, I hope that when you see this video, it helps you out and you kind of helps you learn how to be better at defense. Because I will tell you this, as soon as I learned these mechanics, and this was, so Alpha Lab came Thursday, I focused on these mechanics on Sunday, my games have become way easier thanks to these mechanics.
Now, do you feel, because I've been hearing a lot of new people talk about this, and so I want to bring this up to you specifically inside of this really nice long form format of a podcast that we have to expand on points. But do you feel like this game is hard for new players to pick up? Because that's the biggest thing I've been hearing from new players, is that they're scared to pick up this game because they feel like this game is going to be too difficult for them to pick up if they've never played a fighting game before.
I will say that this game, it suffers from the anime perspective, that there's just a lot of mechanics. And unfortunately, you can't just go into a lobby and suddenly know how to play this game. Even with the pulse views, you're gonna get overwhelmed really quickly. And that's actually one of the reasons why on my first day, I did not touch the lobbies whatsoever. I actually just wanted to go in, discover what the game has to offer, and figure it out through there. And I kind of knew this because even though I didn't get to actually play the builds at the different locations, Combo Breaker and Evo Japan, I studied the footage and I'm like, yeah, I need to figure out how I'm gonna be able to, like, what is all of this, because it's not gonna click for me, and I can already tell that it's gonna hurt me if I don't actually sit and play these mechanics.
For sure. And I think that is really important to note. I think too many people are struck on the fact that like there's so much high level content coming out from like, you know, a lot of like traditional fighting game professionals like yourself and myself included, that it is just nice to remind people, hey, you can also play this game. You don't have to be at the skill ceiling. You can just play and have fun. And giving people especially defensive tools and teaching them how they can do things like that, it's important and it matters. But you know what's crazy about all of this, Saki, is that you not only had this, you know, very useful, very helpful video come out, you also had a crazy stream where you were playing someone else. Talk about this moment that we're showing right now on stream.
All right, I want to just let you all know, if you're teabagging in an alpha lab, okay, your butt's about to get whooped. And once again, I really want to stress that the gameplay that you're seeing here, which is basically me playing as Yasuo, Ari is down for the count, and I'm fighting against the opponent's Braum, who actually did 2 punishing moves, and I whiff punished both times, and actually like destroyed them. It shows that once you stay in the game and you take the time to learn and understand what's happening on the screen, you can make the comebacks happen even at like whatever health, right? Like this one right here again I was like at maybe 20% of health, and I still was able to make the comeback thanks to my knowledge again. But just a warning to anybody who goes into the alpha lab and teabags, your butt's getting kicked.
Yep, for sure. For absolute positive. And you know, it's really interesting that you say that, Saki, because I also had an opportunity to showcase a part of this game myself. I'm going to go ahead and pause the music because I want everyone to experience the scumbaggery that I experienced when I played this game with my duo, Black Yoshi. Yep, never played that character before in my life, but if there's one thing I know how to do, it's grab. It's grab, honey. I know how to mash that medium and heavy button inside of a block string. I know how to do that. And I did it. And I did it. And I did it. And his Echo died. Now, if you want to see what happened after that point, you are definitely going to want to go ahead and check out my very first day of playing 2XKO, which I just want to say I had a blast playing 2XKO, you know? There was a lot of feedback that I saw, and I've talked about this once again on my talk show on FGC Radio over at radio.fgcast.com, 9 a.m. through 11 a.m. Mondays through Fridays. But my experience so far with 2XKO is that the developers have been asking people for a lot of feedback, and my biggest criticism about the game right now is not necessarily anything to do with the gameplay. I think a lot of the gameplay can be tweaked and can be worked on, and that's why it's not as important to focus on, truthfully. I think my biggest frustration with 2XKO right now is honestly just the UI inside of the menu system. And Saki, I'm sure you've experienced as well, because you also play on Junk Food Arcade Snackbox Micro, correct?
Yes, I do.
And do you play on PC primarily as well?
Primarily, yeah. And I'm actually kind of glad that I did so, because there seemed to be happening like a little bit of issues in the login side of things at the beginning.
With the PlayStation, yeah. But my biggest issue, honestly, just to finish my point and then I'll allow you to speak, is that the UI, specifically on PC, is not very friendly to controllers at all, like any type of controller. Honestly, on PC, it feels like you have to have your mouse and keyboard connected in order to move through that UI. Like, even if you go into a search bar or into a place where you're supposed to input something, like if you want to add somebody or if you want to go ahead and invite someone, it's just so much harder to do from a snack box or from an arcade stick or even just from a standard like handheld controller like an Xbox or PlayStation controller. And that feels like the type of feedback that I would expect most people to talk about, but ironically, most of the feedback I'm seeing from people has to do with actual gameplay inside of matches. It's not even talking about the difficulties of getting into matches. It's like, hey, I'm struggling with how long these combos are. Hey, I don't know any combos. Hey, by the way, there's no way for me to learn or practice combos. It's like, hey, I'm struggling figuring out how to open up training mode because the UI that tells me where to go to fight is not intuitive at all. You know, how about we give the developers that type of information? Like, that is something they directly asked for, and we are not giving them. But Saki, what's your feedback regarding this? That if you could tell the developers one or two things, what would you tell them?
So definitely, I would say that the menus and the UIs is definitely there. I do want to give a little bit of like, what's the word?
Leniency?
Yeah, just because it is the alpha lab, and I'm sure that a lot of that stuff is going to get cleaned up.
Yeah.
For the future.
I agree.
But definitely, like, we have to remember that just because the League client and the Valorant client has a way in their UI menus doesn't mean it's just as accessible.
Very correct.
On for a fighting game too.
Very, very correct.
And I think more than anything, and I know that they mentioned that they're going to be working on it, but accessibility is so critical in my eyes, especially for a lot of the community members that I have. They've been like really excited, but they have expressed their disappointment. It's like, oh man, this is not like this menu is already not where it needs to be for me.
So I'm really happy that you brought that up, because accessibility was the number one conversation that a lot of people wanted to have around this game. You know, in fact, it was actually brought up a few times inside of conversation, specifically for other parts of 2XKO. Let me see if I can pull up my little segment here. Oh no, I think I lost the segment, unfortunately. Well, that's a shame. Yeah. Oh, no, wait. Actually, it's here. Yeah, so the developers of the game, actually the lead game developer for this, Sean Riveras, otherwise known as Unconquerable, actually took an opportunity to talk to Jules, who is the community manager for 2XKO. And this came out earlier this week. As of the recording, we're currently recording on Friday, August 16th, 2024. But earlier this week, I believe on Tuesday, this video actually came out, originally posted on their Twitter, but later also duped over to their YouTube. And in this video, Jules and Unconquerable go over some of like the most heavily contested points. And to Saki's credit, Unconquerable actually takes this opportunity to talk a little bit more about accessibility, some of the feedback he's hearing regarding accessibility, and what the game has planned for accessibility. Now, Saki, like you mentioned inside of your previous comment, I too was very distraught and very kind of disheartened when later inside this conversation, Unconquerable says, look, full transparency, a bunch of creators, especially accessibility advocates who know a lot about accessibility, have been studying accessibility, some disabled, some not disabled, some just really good allies, giving us feedback on how to make this game more accessible. Look, day one of this game, of the full version of this game being out, we will not have any of those accessibility options, you know? But he did add, we are committed towards adding accessibility options and taking that accessibility feedback and slowly implementing some of those projects into the game later on inside of the future for this game after the launch, which tells me one of two things, especially after working with like several hundred developers, what that is, what that dev speak kind of is. And I want to reiterate before I add this is all conjecture. Neither myself nor Saki work for Riot Labs or any of the developers under 2XKO. We are not affiliated officially with Riot Games, and these are exclusively our opinions and our thoughts, all right? With that being said, based off my previous experiences working with different development teams and the different development cycles for different indie properties and indie games and just talking to developers, what that means is that the stage of the game right now as it stands has gone too far to implement some of the things that would needed to be added in order to quickly add some of these accessibility options. The way I liken it is like with rollback netcode. In order to have rollback netcode, you have to change several things inside of the game. You have to change the netcode structure. You have to change the animation frames inside of the game. You have to change the way that moves are added inside of the game, and you have to change the way that lobby functions inherently work and the way that players communicate with each other, specifically inside of this game, which once again goes back to the netcode, right? These are all things that need to be known and understood before you even start designing the first aspect of the game. You have to design with that aspect in mind. And my thought here, based off that statement, is that unfortunately, at the early stages of designing this game, they probably did not have accessibility experts inside of the room when they were designing some of these features. You know, that's my first thought. But Saki, what did you take away from this video and this conversation and some of the things that Sean and Jules said, which I want to just close out my like very short monologue here by stating I'm just thankful for the transparency that we got inside of this video. I felt overwhelmingly like it left me with a very positive outlook towards the game inside of the future. And even though I wasn't entirely happy with every single bit of news that came out of this, and I was a little bit disappointed by the non-accessibility, I still felt very thankful that they were being open and honest with us through every step of this.
I agree with you pretty much on almost all points, both on the transparency. And I really like that you also kind of broke it down with the dev speak as well, because, you know, a lot of people think, oh, just add this in and it's automatic. When
press a button,
really
it's there. Yeah, press a button, you now got rollback netcode, dude.
One thing I really want to emphasize is that not every game is made with the same team.
Yeah.
And with the same intentions and the same idea. I say this a lot because right now the closest that accessibility there is in fighting games is literally Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
Right?
Unfortunately. Well, and I wanna add just like a very popular mention, I think, would actually be Them's Fighting Herds. And I actually also want to add Tough Love Arena, which has been working really, really hard to stay accessible because it's available on not console, but specifically like just the internet. So there are a lot of accessibility options that they've added inside of it just because of the fluidity of it.
Right. And notice that for specifically Them's Fighting Herds and Tough Love Arena, those were done with indie devs that from the start were looking to make sure that it was accessible.
Yep.
Mortal Kombat is an interesting situation because they had their engine, they had their tools, they had exactly what you mentioned, the menus, the options, the everything, right? And when we kind of look at how accessibility evolved in Mortal Kombat, even from MK11 to MK1, it's still very much a predominant, like, yes, this is the highlight. This is like one of those highlights for MK.
Yep.
That happens still later, right? And I feel that you have to give devs time to explore and to look and consult and actually figure out how they can translate what they've created and have it created for accessibility.
Yeah.
I don't want to say that like they don't care, because that's not true, right? But I do want to really emphasize that you got to give them time to remember they're on the timeline of trying to deliver this game and deliver a very quality cut product. With that in mind, they also have to deliver that same quality for the accessibility users. Yep. And to try to do both at the same time is really difficult. And one thing I really want our listeners to understand is don't take this as it's not going to happen. Keep your hopes up, keep pushing, keep talking to your influencers like myself, like Sharpie. We can help definitely advocate and say, hey, this is still a pressing matter. Hey, where is this? Sharpie, you even were like, where's the hairstyles?
Yep. No, I was very loud about that. And respectfully, like, it's not even something that I feel weird about doing, to be honest. And Saki, I know you're in a very similar format. Like, to be honest, there are rioters that follow our platforms specifically because they know that our audiences expect us to be loud about things that we know affect them, right? Like, I know there are a lot of other quote unquote creators and influencers out there that are worried about being loud and talking to developers about hard conversations. I feel truthfully, Saki, and I think this is really one of the reasons why I'm so thankful to be doing this podcast with you. I feel like we are both creators that actively speak on things that we know not only could possibly affect us, but could also affect people similar to us or people inside of our communities, especially if it doesn't affect us, right? I know that there was someone who, and as soon as I saw the video talking about lobbies and talking about creating avatars, I didn't see a single person inside of that video with a natural hairstyle. And I was like, hey, are there natural hairstyles for men, women, non-binary people inside of this game that can be easily accessible and visible? Not even just asking for me, asking for some of my audience that I know for a fact are queer or POC and have certain hairstyles that they want reflected on themselves, because I'm tired of getting one or two hairstyles for every single black person inside of the game or every single person of color inside of the game and then calling it quits. I don't want to do that. And as a matter of fact, I got an answer back from a rioter that same day saying, hey, thank you so much for asking that question. Unfortunately, we didn't implement it inside of this alpha, but there are going to be a plethora of natural hairstyles. So thank you so much for asking. Here is your answer. And that answer wasn't just for me. That answer was for anybody and everybody who had that same question, you know? So sometimes it's just about making sure, hey, if a rioter is following you, and you have a question and you post it on your timeline, they may see it and they may be in a position that they can speak publicly to answer that question for you. You know, that's what I want to continue to see from people over on the 2XKO staff. Every single part. And the person who spoke to me, by the way, wasn't even on the gameplay team. They were just on the, I believe they use she, her pronouns, but I apologize for misgendering them if they do not. I believe she was just on the narrative team, to be honest. She was just on the narrative and design team for specifically like some of the rigs. She didn't even really mess with the gameplay all that much. She was like, what do we want our characters to sound like? What do we want them to look like? That was her job. And I just talking to someone like that, because I posted a video, my little Braum singing dance video talking about Braum coming in the game. She followed me from there. And then she was like just watching my content afterwards. And when 2XKO came out, and right before the alpha, I was like, hey, I don't see any natural hairstyles. What's going on, Riot? And she was like, hey, thanks. Great question. Thank you for asking. We do have them coming out. They're not in this alpha, unfortunately. We couldn't get them out in time for that, but they are coming. That's great. That's great to know. That makes me feel positive about the future, you know?
Exactly. Absolutely. Overall, Sharpie, how would you rate your Alpha Lab experience?
Oh, great question.
1 through 5.
1 through 5, I would have to rate it a 7. Definitely a 7. Mostly
Nice.
because I didn't have to play you.
That's crazy.
Nah, it's true is what it is. Nah,
All
honestly,
I'm
girl,
saying is,
what do
see me
you
Sunday.
think? What do you
See me
say?
Sunday.
What do you think? How do you feel about your experience so far, all in all?
I'm gonna go with a 10.
Yeah, same.
Breaking the scale immediately.
Overall, I think we can both agree, regardless of some of like the negativity and some of the unfinished aspects of the game, which once again, it is just an alpha, even though it really could be a beta. Like this game could really get away with being a beta, to be honest with you, but it's an alpha. Even with, you know, some small adjustments that are needed on the side, I think we're both really happy with ultimately where 2XKO currently is inside of the fighting game community. The presentation of it, the transparency of it from everyone on the staff, and the openness that the team seems to have towards integrating this project long term with the fighting game community. You know what I mean, Saki?
Absolutely. And with that, Sharpie, I just want to say, see me on Sunday before the Alpha Lab ends.
Crazy.
And let us know how you feel about the 2XKO Alpha Lab.
Yes, viewer, please let us know, because with that, we have actually come to the end of this episode of FGC Cast. And Saki, congratulations on the ending of our very first episode of Season 3. Yes, you guys, that's correct. Season freaking 3. We did it, Saki. We're here. You know, I'm so happy. I know you gave a really touching conversation at the start of all of this, and I kind of jinxed it at the start, but ultimately, Saki, I just got to go back to you very quickly. You know, after now, I believe this is actually like the third year we filmed. We end every single season after Evo. So when you came on, after we had just finished filming with Yohozi and we've been on that big break, we just decided to start a season 2. Now you're doing season 3. I have to ask, how do you ultimately feel about your journey with FGC Cast so far?
I feel like I pressed on all of your plus frames.
That's crazy.
And wally-whopped ya.
That's
and
crazy.
made sure that you remembered the taste of my wind.
Hey, yo! Go off, Saki. Yo, Saki, if we want to watch more 2XKO madness, we want to see you commentating some of these 2XKO tournaments, or maybe we just want to shoot the mess with you and hear some more madness about how good Yasuo is, even though we all know that character should be removed from this game, where can we find you?
You can find me at my website, SakiSakuraTV.info, as well as using that same Saki Sakura TV on all the platforms. You'll find all my links there. You know the jams, and yeah.
Yeah, it's been a good time, and as always, viewer, I just want to remind you guys that you can also find me on my website too. There's a link right below, sharpiepls.com. It's a really hype website. I've actually been working on updating it, and even more importantly, you'll actually find some really cool little links and integrations from my podcast on there. As a matter of fact, Saki, I actually think you just recently updated your website as well, right, to highlight some brand new videos that you're working on so that people can actually go ahead and support you with but a single click just by going over to your website. Is that correct?
That is correct. There's a lot of cool things on there, so y'all better get to it and check it out.
Yeah, and if you're done checking it out, gamers, we will see you offline.
Boing.